Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, August 15th, 2019. Present at the front table, to my far left is Jessica Vitale, a voting member. Seated next to Jessica is Ed McGargy, a voting member. To my right, Bill Rhodes, a voting member. And to my immediate left, Luke Clark, our solicitor for this evening. We have one decision and 5 new cases on the agenda tonight. Before we begin, Bill, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The decision tonight is for case Z19-17, David DeChico and Deborah DeSimone, owners of 37 Columbus Road, Haverford Township, PA, DC folio number 2209-00372000, who seek a variance to encroach 4 foot into the required 10-foot separation between the proposed deck and the existing garage. Property is owned R6 and located in the 2nd Ward. Jessica, would you please take that decision?
Yes, I motion to approve the application with the following conditions.
After this.
The raised landing will be removed and replaced with a landing flush with the driveway surface. The existing single-swing gate and railing should be removed and replaced with a double gate spanning the entire opening, and vegetation screening should be planted on the street side of the deck.
Ed?
I agree.
Bill?
I agree.
So do I. That application is approved 4-0 with those conditions. Any administrative matters that need to be addressed by the board before we begin the new cases?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have minutes from June 6th, and they were distributed, and I'd like to move that they be approved as distributed.
I would just note that the minutes for the June 20 meeting,
We don't know that. We're going to hold off on that.
Okay.
Because we don't know what was approved last meeting until we find out. They
okay,
were approved last meeting.
okay.
So you're moving only the
June 6th?
June 6 minutes, Ed?
Yes.
Okay.
I second that motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So the minutes of June 6 are moved. Our first new case this evening is Z19-19, Bank of America, lessees of 646 Lancaster Avenue, Bryn Mawr, PA, DC folio number 2205-00472000, who seek a modification of zoning hearing board order Z0815, condition number 3, to allow a drive-through ATM in the rear of the bank building. Property is on C4 and located in the 5th Ward. Who's here representing?
Good evening. Jeffrey Martell from Stonefield Engineering and Design, the project engineer. As was stated,
If the board, please. My name's James Byrne. I'm the township solicitor, and I was appointed by the commissioners to appear in opposition to this application at the last commissioners meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. So, Jeff, are you going to be presenting evidence or testimony or a combination of both?
I was going to be presenting testimony. I do have some exhibits I can mark as evidence.
Okay. Well, first I'll swear you, and then if you have exhibits, are they pre-marked by any chance?
They are not.
Okay. First I'll swear you since you're going to be giving testimony. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name again and the capacity in which you appear before the board this evening, please?
Jeffrey Martell, M-A-R-T-E-L-L, from Stonefield Engineering and Design, licensed professional engineer.
Okay, so is the testimony that you give tonight, would you consider it expert testimony or just?
I would state, though, in light of the fact that there's been, there's an objecting solicitor here, that might be better in the best interest if the board or the commission table this and the bank have representation at the next meeting. There was supposed to be representation here, but there's nobody there from their law firm.
Mr. Byrne?
Yeah, I have a couple procedural objections. First, to the continuance. I did speak to somebody from the bank yesterday. Maybe she was from the bank, but she was from an agency that was pursuing this application. I believe her name was Tamika, and I can't remember her last name off the top of my head. But I told her, it was 2 days ago, and I told her that we were opposing this application, and she told me that they were going to come and they were going to be prepared to go tonight. I also spoke to another fellow on Monday from her same organization and told him the same thing. So there's a number of neighbors here tonight, and I don't know that it's fair to them to have made it out on a hot August night and the bank to be given a pass to continue this. And then I have two other actually objections. And first one is kind of procedural in that I don't think an engineer really should be allowed to prepare and to present a case, especially in the fact that when he is testifying as well. I don't think that that's permissible under Pennsylvania law, and I think when you're a corporation, you need to be represented by an attorney. Second objection I have, and is more important, is that this application was heard by this board before, back in 2000, and I believe it was 2008. And at that time, they were represented by counsel, and that counsel, at that time, made an assurance in a question from you, Mr. King, where you said, we can address that right now. Would you be willing to accept as a condition of approval if this application is approved that no ATM machines ever be placed in the rear of the bank? They were represented by Mr. D'Amico, who is a very good land use lawyer, as you know, and Mr. D'Amico's answer was yes. And then it was made a condition of this of the approval. So now we're here tonight asking for a modification of that. I don't know what a modification of a variance is, to be honest with you. I mean, it's either a variance or a special exception or a by right use, but I don't think you can have a modification. There's no such animal in the MPC, and I don't think we're able to proceed on that basis.
Mr. Martell, do you want to address any of the issues raised by Mr. Byrne? Or
I would like to address the non-legal portions of it, because I'm obviously not an attorney, and again, just request that the meeting be adjourned. I apologize for anybody's inconvenience. There was supposed to be legal representation here this evening. I am aware that various representatives of the bank were notified. They're project permit expediters, assistants for the bank. They're not Bank of America corporate employees, and I apologize for any mix-up, but I think it's in the best interest of all if the bank has representation to pursue with whatever form of the submission is, and I don't want to get caught up in the legal terms, whether it's a modification or needs to be adjusted to be something else. I think in any event, the bank should be represented by an attorney for the proceedings.
I don't mean to go back and forth, but I specifically called these folks 2 times this week because I was on vacation, and I didn't really want to come here tonight, to be honest with you. I wanted to see if the matter could be continued. And they said, no, they're going to go forward tonight. This is not a mom and pop grocery store. They had Mr. D'Amico before. I suspect that they don't have Mr. D'Amico here tonight because he said he would never come and ask for this again. So my thought is that the reason they don't have an attorney is of their own choosing, and they were hoping they could come here tonight, in a night in August, and get the thing through. But the Board of Commissioners, and I'm here with Commissioner Lewis. I should have introduced him beforehand. Is the commissioner in that ward and has authorized the board to have me here. I don't think it's fair to have the township, for any of the residents of the township, the ones that are here, or any of the rest of the residents, to have to pay me another night to come back because they chose not to follow the rules.
Well, given those circumstances, Mr. Martell, it's hard for me as chairman, and I'll ask if any of my fellow board members disagree, under those circumstances, unless you can refute or you want to try to refute anything that Mr. Byrne represented to the board. Continuances generally have to be requested in advance of a hearing, or someone appear to request a continuance, but generally some sort of notification is given, so a lot of residents don't come out to a hearing, or people drive home from their vacation. So I think that we will proceed this evening, and we'll see where the case goes. Maybe it will be concluded tonight. Maybe there will be answers or questions that the board wants answers to that will need to be supplemented, and in a future hearing, if that's the case, certainly the bank's welcome to have whoever they want present. But for tonight, there was public notice. The bank certainly knew about it. Seems to me there were communications between the township's attorney and some bank representatives, so that adequate notice was given to the bank as it was to the public. So it's my feeling we should go forward tonight. If anyone disagrees, I'm more than happy to hear it.
I think we should, and take the testimony from residents and people who want to go on the record.
Okay. So,
If I could, and I don't mean to push my luck here, but the other objection I have, the other procedural objection is I'm not really sure what I'm defending against here tonight, because I don't know there is such a thing as a modification of a variance. A variance was granted under express conditions. As you know, there's a very high standard for variances in Pennsylvania. And to come in one night and say we're not, or 1 year and say we're not going to ever ask for this again, and then to come back in another night and say, well, we want that modified. Well, there is nothing in the MPC that allows for that.
so, just so I'm understanding you correctly, Jim, you're saying that it's essentially a new variance request, as opposed to something that sounds less or more innocuous
Yes,
as a modification.
exactly. It's at the very least a new variance request if they're even permitted to ask for it. I mean, my thought would be, that, you know, if we were in a court, if we were in media or someplace else, I would ask for, you know, make a motion to dismiss the case, because the advertisement was for a modification, which might be something different. You know, this is a variance. They were asking for a modification, but there's no such thing. And this is a variance. It's a simple, the standard's simple. You know, there has to be some hardship of the property the bank is operating. Just seems a waste of time to go through the rest of it.
Mr. Chairman.
Wait 1 second. So are you suggesting that the application should be summarily dismissed, or that we should proceed and accept whatever exhibits or testimony Mr. Martell wants to put on and hear from the residents?
You know, I guess I would leave that up to your solicitor. That would be my choice. I mean, but I just don't know how you can grant the relief that's been requested, is what I'm getting to. So I don't know that hearing the testimony is going to make a whole lot of difference, because the relief they're asking for is not permitted.
But you're not specifically making a request that the application be summarily dismissed?
I think it would save a lot of time if we did. I don't want to I don't want to be presumptuous and take that away from you, but that's what I don't know that there's an animal in the MPC for a motion to dismiss, just as I don't know if there's one for a modification. But I certainly know that this application, under no circumstances, is going to meet the very high burden of a variance, especially when the variances were already granted with the express condition that there's no ATM in the rear of the property.
In light of all this, again, I request the continuance. The board doesn't see favorably upon that. I would ask if clarification, if a dismissal, a dismissal was
And I don't even know that,
would it be without prejudice? Because, I mean, it sounds as though the bank is not represented properly at these proceedings this evening. Again, I apologize.
but
Again,
we're not going to do that. So we're going to proceed, and we'll, unless there's an objection, we'll accept whatever exhibits and testimony that you want to present to the board, as much as you're comfortable presenting. And then we're going to hear from the residents who came out tonight.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
isn't there an option that the bank can withdraw their application without prejudice and apply again if they?
But we're not here to give advice to them.
No, I'm just wondering if there was an option.
There's always an option to withdraw an application, by any applicant.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I agree that's appropriate, you know, that is something that could be done, to withdraw the application and, you know, have to reapply. The second thing that I do want to, and I know I'm beating a dead horse, but Kelly Kirk also spoke to some of the people, as the zoning officer also spoke to some of the people from the bank, said the hearing's on tonight, you got to be ready. And I spoke to Kelly, trying to get numbers for people to call, and then I recalled them, so to.
Well, because we're going to proceed tonight, as I think it may be good to get that on the record if Kelly can present testimony. But that's your discretion, I'm not.
I mean, to be totally honest, I'm in a difficult position to make this decision on behalf of the bank, again, without having legal counsel, but I do think that the only realistic option here is to request to withdraw the application, and I'm going to suggest that they have legal counsel. I apologize to everybody for coming out on an August night, but I feel as though there's legal representation on one side, there's legal representation on the second side, and the third side doesn't have any, and I feel as though my capacity as a professional engineer is
Just so
not
you're
there.
clear, we are neutral. And
Understood.
We hear the facts, and the reason that I was going to proceed tonight is I realize you're not an attorney, and you may not have the legal expertise or knowledge to determine whether or not a modification is tantamount to a new variance request, and basically make a determination as to whether or not it was a valid request after we heard the testimony, because we haven't heard what it is exactly that you want to do or seen any of the evidence that you might present in support of that. So, I mean,
My fear
obviously,
is that
it's-
we proceed, and if there is a jurisdictional or procedural error, I don't want to, have any decision or proceedings be done in mistake. So if we requested something that is
So if you're
mistake-
saying you want to withdraw the application, then I mean, you're withdrawing the application on behalf of the bank. I can't give any advice as to what the implications of that might be. If you want to take a few minutes and ask the township codes officer, what your options might be if you were to do that, I'm willing to give you a few minutes to, off the record, ask that question. I don't want you to do it publicly. She's not going to give you legal advice, but just procedurally, what would normally happen under those circumstances. I'm willing to give you a few minutes to do that if you want.
Sure.
Okay, we'll take a 2-minute recess. Okay, Mr. Martell?
On behalf of the applicant, I would like to request that the application be withdrawn. It's my understanding that that action would not be done with any prejudice in either fashion. And in light of the fact that I understand there's some opposition here from the neighbors, I'll advise the bank accordingly, and they can make a decision whether to resubmit the application or not.
Okay, well, once you withdraw it, the case is over, so.
Understood.
I'll hear from Mr.
Just
Berman.
one thing I want to put on the record is that we understand that this is being withdrawn and that in order to come back here, this is not a continuance. There need to be a new application fee, new
Correct.
advertising, starting all over again.
That's understood.
Absolutely. Okay,
Apologies for the inconvenience. Thank you.
thanks. Well, that application is withdrawn. Any other withdrawals? I'm not going to say goodbye now. Take a minute. We'll take a 2-minute recess. The next case is going to be Dwight and Suzanne Ashley. Where you guys? Okay. Do you have exhibits that you're going to present to the board? No, I don't really have. Have to wait for the red light to, oh, there we go. Resume the hearing of the Haverford Township Zoning Board of August 15th, 2019. The next new case is Z19-20, Dwight and Suzanne Ashley, owners of 2508 Rosemont Avenue, Ardmore, PA, DC folio number 2206-0185000, who seek a variance from the provisions of section 182-711B1 to permit the construction of a 20-foot by 24-foot shed in the rear yard that is not located 10 foot further back from the rearmost portion of the house. The property is zoned R4 and located in the 6th ward. Mr. Ashley, I presume.
Yes,
Okay. Please raise
Dwight
your right hand.
Ashley.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Dwight M. Ashley.
Okay, Dwight, please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do.
Well, I need to build a storage shed. I restore antique motorcycles. Right now, I'm currently renting a garage up the street from me, and it costs me a lot of money. I have the room to build one. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't know about the new laws about the 10-foot setback.
Well, it's been a law for a while, Dwight, and I think the general intent or purpose of it is to make sure there's enough room for firefighters to get between a shed and an accessory structure so they can move around in the event there's a fire. But do you have a plot plan?
Yes. There's 31,
So you have some documents that our board solicitor explained to you about marking exhibits, and you have a couple drawings that you wanted the board to look at, right? They have to be marked as exhibits before we can look at them. So you want us to look at them, right?
yes.
Okay. So, Luke, you
All right,
welcome. A1,
So-
A2.
Mr. Ashley, which one do you want to go through first?
Let's go with the plot plan.
Yes, sir. All right, so we'll mark this as applicant 1.
So A1.
Stickers.
I'm sorry, what's your name? Bridget.
There's 2. 2.
So Dwight, there's two exhibits. A1, what you've asked the board to mark as exhibits. A1, which is a plot plan, is that correct?
Correct.
And A2, an elevations drawing?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Okay. So, let's see. So from A1, just describe the layout of your property and,
well, I built this house, addition on this house in 1984. Okay, it was 850 square foot house. This portion of the house here is 1 story. This portion here is 2 story, facing the street. The building that I would like to build is over 31 feet away from the 1 story section of the house. And being as it was back in 1904, it was built closer to the property line than what's allowable by today's standards. If you look at my neighborhood, this little box right here, that's my neighbor's garage.
you're pointing
His-
to the area on the
It's
left.
in
of
the
your
upper
exhibit.
left-hand corner of the drawing.
Okay.
Nobody in the whole neighborhood on my end of the street comes anywhere near to complying with the 10-foot setback law. So it's fair for them. I
Dwight,
think it should be fair for me.
how far, what's the distance from the 2-story portion of your home back to the front of the proposed
I
new
will give it to you.
shed?
I think it's 31 feet or something like that. I measured it this morning. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. It is 23 feet. 23 feet approximately.
That's from the corner of the two-story
Corner of the
home?
house of the 2-story piece to the face of the proposed shed is 23 feet.
Okay, and Dwight, what's the distance from the one-story portion of your house?
31 feet, 6 inches.
Okay. And I see a concrete patio,
Yes.
324 square feet.
14 feet from the corner.
Is there anything on that patio, or is it just an open patio? Is
Just
it
an
enclosed
open patio.
anywhere?
I'm sorry, can you just wait until he's done?
Okay, sorry.
Is there anything on that patio?
No.
It's not enclosed in any way?
Flowers.
Let's see. And the reason you're here is because the closest portion of your proposed new shed is not 10 feet behind the rearmost portion of your the one-story area of your home. But that's why I asked you what the separation was from the two-story piece and the one-story piece over. All right, I don't have any other questions. Bill, do you have any questions?
I had a couple questions, Mr. Ashley, if I could. On Exhibit A2, where you show your elevations, and at the bottom of the page, the front elevation shows what is presumably about a 10 by 10 garage door,
No, it's 7 by 8.
7 by 8, okay. And 7 feet tall, 8 feet wide.
Correct.
And, you know, you were kind enough to submit the impervious coverage and building coverage ratios, so you show that you're okay with that. But I noticed that there's no driveway depicted on A1 to go back to that garage.
No
Do you want to
driveway.
just explain?
You do not need a driveway. It's for storage of antique motorcycles. I do it now out of a smaller shed. I don't need a driveway. We don't drive in the mud, the wintertime. That's what I do, is I restore I need a place to store my restored motorcycles to where somebody's not bringing a ladder by them or strictly
So I
for
think what he's
motorcycles.
asking is how do you get them back to the,
I run in the grass. I've been doing it for years. I don't want a driveway.
so you don't ride them in the grass, you just push them?
No, I do drive them on the grass, yes.
And do you have a motorcycle restoration business? Is that?
Not really, not officially, no. I'm retired. That's what I do for,
How many motorcycles would you be storing in the garage if you had it there right now?
right now I have 6.
Six, okay.
I have anywhere between 6 and 10 motorcycles at any given time.
And how many motorcycles do you restore and sell per year?
Maybe 1, 2.
This is a one-story garage, right?
1 story.
And it's got a pitched roof, but that's just an open, the room will be open to the roof?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions.
What kind of bikes are they that you restore? Like Harley?
Well, I have, the oldest bike I have is a 1935 Harley. I'm getting into Indian 4-cylinders. I just did a 38 Indian 4-cylinder, and I did a 1940 Indian 4-cylinder. I have a 46 Indian Chief. I just sold a 38 Indian Sport Scout, Harley Cervicar, 57 Panhead. I'm trying to free up some money so I can build this building.
So the hours that you would be working on the bikes back there,
I will not be working on them there. It's only, I build them in my shop, in my basement, and then I bring them outside.
so it's just for storage?
Yes.
Okay. Jessica? Ed?
Yeah, if you could explain to me on A1 plot plan, you have your existing one-story addition that you said, and you had the neighbor's garage. What is the 171 square foot 19 by 9?
That is a small shed.
That your shed extends onto the neighbor's property, is that what it shows?
Here, yeah. His garage is actually on my property some too.
Do you know whether you got a variance to put in your, would that shed come in before or after?
That shed was there when I bought the house in 1981.
And what about the addition?
The addition is the 2-story part of the drawing there, the front part of the house. This part of the house used to continue straight forward. My addition took that over and became 2 stories, 24 feet back.
So the one-story portion was always existed before you bought the house?
Yes, and I just went over it with a 2-story. Okay? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. And the existing shed that was underneath your garage, it says here it's going to be removed.
Yes,
So that'll clear up the setback distances from the rear and side yards.
yes.
I have no other question.
Yeah, I had just one more I forgot to ask. Attached to your neighbor's garage, but I think on your property is a square on the upper left corner of A1. Is that just, what is that? That 19-foot by 9-foot?
That is the shed. That's another small shed.
That's another shed. Is that yours?
Yes, it's on my property.
And if you were permitted to construct the shed, what utilities would you, would you have electric?
I don't really want to do anything with it. I just need the shed. I need a storage shed. Right now, I'm not planning on putting anything in it.
Okay, and with there, from the plot plan, it looks like there would be enough room, but I just want to ask you, if, God forbid, there were a fire or something, either in the shed or in the house, is there enough room for?
I just planted a bunch of arborvitaes along here. Got a truck and a trailer, giant truck and trailer right in. There's plenty of room here.
All right, I don't have any other questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't.
Okay, with that, I'm going to ask if there's any residents that received certified mail about this case that wish to testify? Any residents that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? With that, we'll close the record on this case, and what's our next meeting?
September 5th. September 5th.
Correct. Yep.
And if we're able to get through all our cases this evening, try to make a decision tonight. In the event we're not able to do that, a decision will be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on September 5th.
Okay, well, should I wait? Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody have a good evening.
You too. All right, our next new case is Z19-21. Well, wait, let's go. What's your guy's name? Oh, you're next anyway. You were gonna get child preference, but it's not needed. So our next new case will be Z19-21, Scott and Lindsay Rockers, owners of 2019 Oakmont Avenue, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2203-0169900, who seek a variance from provisions of section 182-206C6A to allow the construction of a 476 square foot addition and 40 square foot ADA ramp that will encroach into the required 8-foot side yard setback and 20-foot side yard aggregate total, and a variance from the provisions of section 182-206C5A to encroach into the required 30-foot front yard setback. Property is zoned R4 and located in the 3rd ward. So please come forward.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if it please the board, my name is John Mezzanotte, and I represent Richard and Denise Kenny. I'm an attorney in Media, Pennsylvania, and I'll be requesting that the Kennys be identified as parties to this proceeding.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Mezzanotte, what are their names again? Your clients?
My clients' names are Richard and Denise Kenny.
And what is your client's address?
It is 2013 Oakmont, so they are the abutting neighbor. You're looking at the applicant's home from the street. my client's home would be.
Unless there's any discussion among the board, I think we'll grant, we'll grant party status to the Kennys. But any discussion, Ed, Jessica,
No discussion.
Bill?
No.
Okay. And Scott and Lindsay, do you understand what that means?
That they have legal
That they have a right to now participate in the hearing. So you're going to present your case, and if you have exhibits, you need to provide a copy or show them to Mr. Mezzanotte before you give them up to the board.
Okay.
And we'll cross the rest of what that entails when we come to it. But basically, procedurally, that's what it involves. So I need to swear you and your husband before we even begin. So ladies first, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Lindsay Rockers, 2019 Oakmont Avenue, Haverford Town, 19083.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Scott Rockers, 2019 Oakmont Avenue, Havertown, PA, 19028.
83?
83. I work in minutes, sorry.
Okay, so if you heard from the last case, anything you want to submit to the board for us to look at or for you to refer to throughout the hearing has to be marked as an exhibit. And as you go through the hearing, if you want to refer to it, you should, however it ends up being marked, you should refer to it as depicted on A1 or A2 or whatever the case may be. The A in the marking scheme stands for applicant. You're the applicant. That's where the A comes from. So I saw in your hand you had a packet of
I do,
things
and
stapled
they are
together.
all marked A1 through A10.
Okay.
I think that everybody has copies, but there is a slight update to page A4. So I have new packets if everybody wants them.
Yes. Thank you.
No, it's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, yep, we're okay.
Save the stickers.
All right.
Okay. And please tell us about what you would like to do and why.
Okay, so we are seeking to put a side addition onto our home. The reason that we want to do this is twofold. One is we need more room. We are pregnant with baby number 5, and our house is only 1,700 square feet, so it's a little bit tight. I'm sorry, I'm just nervous. The second reason is for our son, Gabe.
It's all right.
Gabe has severe chorioapthetoid cerebral palsy, so he's profoundly disabled. He can't walk, he can't sit up, he can't talk, he's 100% tube fed. So, with balancing the need for more room for our family and making our house accessible for him, we had to kind of get creative in how we approached our addition. So what mobility looks like for Gabe is different than even like what mobility would look like for you or I if we just like lost the use of our legs. Gabe will always be in a very large power chair with head to toe orthopedic support.
And if you need him, just say it and you.
It's okay, I'm okay. I'm rallying, sorry. So he'll always need head to toe orthopedic support. His power chair will be very large. He doesn't have any fine motor control. So he will be controlling the wheelchair with a switch next to the side of his head. And so for someone else who would maintain control of the rest of their body, they would be able to navigate narrow spaces in between furniture around obstacles, stuff like that, a little bit easier, but for Gabe, that will be almost impossible. So he really needs wide open spaces to be able to operate his power chair and access the different points of our home. When we were looking to add on space to our house, we didn't just have to look at like more space to our family and like a first floor bedroom and bathroom. We also had to kind of look at like the entire circulation of our ground floor to make sure that he was able to access all of like our main living spaces as independently as possible. So you guys have your packet in front of you. Exhibit A1 shows our plot plan as is currently. And then A2 shows the plot plan as it would be with the proposed side addition. A3 is an aerial view of our street. Our variance requests are for it to encroach on our side yard, but also to encroach on our front yard. We're encroaching on our front yard just because we're lining up with the already existing front of our house. And if you look at the street above, all of the houses on our street are like in alignment with one another pretty much. So we're just lining up with the front of our house that's already in existence.
So Lindsay?
Yes.
Your house on A3 is the one, I think I see it superimposed, 2019 Oakmont?
Yes.
Okay, and the proposed addition,
Would be on the side that the driveway is on. So our curb cut would move to the opposite side of the house.
did you consider any other areas on your property?
We did. We looked at just going back, which is what the other people on our street have done, to add more space to their house. The problem is that our house is only 20 feet wide, and one of the things that our side addition does is to give Gabe a 4-foot wide ADA accessible corridor that links the main living areas of our house, including what will be his, eventually his first floor bedroom and his accessible shower room. And if we were to try to carve that 4-foot wide corridor out of the existing width of our house, that would be almost 25% of the width of our house. It just wouldn't be practical. So that's why we're having to go out the side.
I meant like out the other side or out the back.
Well,
Did you consider that?
That's why we didn't go out the back. The reason that we went out that side is because that side is where our stairwell is. So when Gabe is still living upstairs, we'd like to keep him upstairs as long as possible. He has seizures, so we like to keep him close at night. And then also our kitchen is on that side of the house, so it just links like the most vital portions of our house with the corridor.
Go ahead.
So exhibit A4 is probably like the most relevant. That's our first floor. This shows you all of the different like aspects that kind of meet our accessibility needs for Gabe. Like if you start at the front of the house, you see the room that's marked like the office / first floor bedroom. Like I said before, we want to keep Gabe upstairs as long as possible, but we're looking like this is accessibility needs for the next 40 years down the road. So eventually,
How old is he?
He's 6. Eventually, he'll have to have a first floor bedroom. And so while he's still living upstairs, it'll serve as our office, but as soon as we can't get him upstairs anymore, that will be his bedroom. Then if you look in the addition itself, which is off to the right, you have your 4-foot wide hallway. That is the ADA accessible corridor that kind of links all of the vital aspects of our home, including the stairwell, his first floor bedroom, his accessible toilet and shower room, and our kitchen. And then around the back is like where he'll enter the house. So that first floor hallway Like I said before, Gabe doesn't have any fine motor control, so he needs like wide open forgiving spaces to be able to navigate. He won't be able to just scooch past furniture or go around our other kids' toys in the floor. Like, he really needs a space that's dedicated to him for his power chair to move throughout our home. He also,
Would you, so you would lose your driveway, right?
our curb cut would move to the opposite side of the house. We would have a driveway on the opposite side of the house.
Is that a garage in the rear of your property?
Yes, but we don't use it as a garage. It's,
So access to that would not be an issue?
would not be an issue, no.
And do you need a driveway at all?
We do, because if you look, he's gonna have a wheelchair ramp at the rear of our home. We tried to keep it in the back because they're a little bit of an eyesore. So his wheelchair ramp will be like near where we deploy like his lift, his power lift for in and out of our car when we're transporting him.
Okay, please continue.
So the addition gives us that corridor that links all of our parts of our house. It also gives us a ADA accessible bathroom and shower room. While Gabe is still living upstairs, it'll just serve as a half bath for him and an accessible first bath for him and the rest of our family. As soon as he moves down to the first floor, that the whole room will already be tiled out and have a drain in the floor. So we'll just hook up a handheld shower head with plumbing that's already existing in the walls, and that will become a wheel-in shower room. So we can just put him in his rolling shower chair in his bedroom and roll him straight into the bathroom without having to lift him or anything like that. Then, like towards the back of the house, you have our kitchen and our our kitchen and our living room, which is right now our dining room. We really appreciate that there's some separation between those main living areas of our house and what would be Gabe's bedroom, just to give him some privacy and some separation for like noise and stuff. I mean, he's a little boy, and life doesn't stop at 7:30 after he goes to bed, so it would be good to have a little bit of space separation between like our main living areas and his bedroom. Then off the back, you see our deck and our wheelchair ramp. This is the most convenient place for our deck and our wheelchair ramp to go. We do know that that is cutting into our aggregate, or total aggregate, that's already decreased to 18 feet. So it would be possible for us to kind of rotate that deck and ramp around to the back of the house so that we're not decreasing our total aggregate any more than the addition itself would be. And I think that's about it. The exhibit A5 shows the rough layout of our upstairs. There's a lot of smaller changes that we'd like to make to, especially the upstairs, but you only get one chance to make updates for free before you start getting charged for every update, and we didn't want to do anything until we knew how this proceeding would go. Exhibit A6 is the roof lines, how they would be after the addition. A7 is an elevation drawing for the front and side of our house. That was A7. A8 is just like inspiration pictures for like finishes and stuff. The outside of the house is very important to us. We know that our addition affects all of our neighbors, and we want it to be something that our house is like the biggest eyesore on the street. We definitely bought a fixer-upper, so we want it to be something that looks nice and helps increase people's property values as opposed to takes away from them. A9 just shows like that there are a lot of Dutch colonials on our street. We chose to keep like the Dutch colonial facade on our house and to try and tie in with that so that we would be kind of harmonious with the rest of the homes on the street. And A10 is a 3D rendering of our proposed side addition and how it sits in relation to our next door neighbors. That's all I got.
Question, Jessica?
Yes. You said that you are extending your house forward to line up with the front of it. Do you just mean this new porch?
Yeah, the
addition?
porch
Okay.
lines up with the front, with what is now
What is
an
now
enclosed front porch, yeah.
Okay. And you're adding additional windows to that front porch? That will be your office
Yeah,
bedroom?
yeah.
I'm wondering if you considered in the design of the house, I understand the need to have the larger 4-foot corridor or so for him to maneuver. If you considered doing simply a 4-foot corridor on the side of the house and then having the bulk of the addition towards the back.
So we considered, we can go out 6 feet without a variance. We considered doing a side and a backyard addition. It just comes down to cost. It's essentially 2 additions, and it's just not feasible for our family to put 2 additions on our house.
Okay.
The cost of just adding a hallway to that side, just adding 4 feet for just a hallway, yeah, that cost.
It's just so
Seemed-
much for, to put a whole addition on just to get the 4-foot hallway. We're trying to get everything that we need out of one addition. And we really, we'd love 15 feet, but we really tried to squeeze everything that we needed into those 10 feet. It's 9.8 feet.
And then I was wondering if you know, or if the architect did the calculation, the elevation that faces your neighbor here, that's going to be about 4 feet from their property line?
Yes.
Do you know what percentage of that facade is windows?
I don't, and that is we approached our neighbors back in February, and then followed up with them several times. They didn't object to these plans until after we had already applied. But when we approached them, we told them we're willing to work with them on window placement, privacy shrubs, fencing. We know that this is an encroachment on their property, and that they've bought their house and lived in it with our house as it is in relation to theirs for, 20 plus years. So we definitely sympathize with that, and we want to be amenable there and do what we can to make them feel comfortable. It's just the 9.8 feet, that's the minimum.
Yeah, I guess my question is more, so the building code, when you get close between 3 to 5 feet from a property line, usually restricts how much of your wall can be glass.
Okay.
So the percent open, so just having that information and confirming that it complies would just be useful, I think.
Okay, I don't have that information. I did not know that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, is that something that would come up when we applied for permits?
Yes,
Or,
it would
okay.
come up. So it might be something you want to look into
Okay.
now to avoid having to make a change
Okay.
later. You might be in compliance, I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, that side of our house, there on the second floor bedroom, or the second floor addition, there is a bedroom inside that addition because we're expecting baby number 5. But aside from that, there's not a lot of need for, we have a closet and a upstairs hallway. There's not a lot of need for windows on that side of the house.
Okay. I don't have any other questions at this time.
Ed?
No question.
Bill?
Just a question, if I could, follow up on what Jessica asked. So appreciating the need to have this sort of 4-foot corridor sort of minimum for the power chair that runs the full length. And instead of putting an addition on the side, if you use that corridor within the existing dimensions, I understand it would be 25% of the existing floor plan, but then you really did the addition in the back, but you had the corridor that runs the full length of the addition, so you weren't having to pay for an addition on the side. Did you ask your architect to show you what that might look like, or price out whether, changing the floor plan, I get it,
Yeah.
in the existing house, but then really building backward? Because lot of good reason for you, I understand the need, right? At the same time, building right up to the property line on your neighbor and then moving your driveway to essentially becomes a shared driveway with your other neighbor, right? Because you're,
There's
you know,
several, there would still be several feet
yeah,
between our driveways, but yes.
putting curb cuts, you understand, right next to each other.
Yeah, they
creates
would-
a safety problem also, right?
Okay.
So, you know, cars coming in and going out of the same spots, you know, don't give a lot of turning radius, and people don't expect curb cuts to be right next to each other. So that's another issue, but just wondering if, you know, I personally would be really comfortable with looking at variances that allow you to go back and up, and relief for that, because it's less imposing on the adjacent houses. But I wasn't sure if keeping this 4-foot corridor that I understand is so important within the existing footprint and going just back, not building on the side at all, was ever considered.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of poured over these plans with our architect for a long time, trying to figure it out. It's just that 4-foot corridor takes up so much space of our house, especially because we'd have to put it on the left side, so on the right side you have our stairwell, which is another 4 feet, so all of a sudden you're looking at, you know, almost 50% of the width of our house, and that kind of renders our front room and what is now our living room, the proposed dining room, and the proposed living room essentially useless because they become so narrow that there's just really no space for furniture or anything to go in those areas. They would be 12 feet wide.
I don't have any other questions.
Anything else from the board? Jess? Ed?
No.
Okay, neither do I. Mr. Mezzanotte,
Thank you.
would like to address?
Ms. Rockers, I'm just going to be asking you some questions,
Okay, can I sit?
You sure can.
But try to speak up, because
Okay.
this is being recorded.
Ms. Rockers, I know this is a little difficult for you. If you need to take a break at any time during my questioning, just let the board know, and I'm sure they'll be happy to accommodate you.
Okay.
So let me just get a little background. So am I right that you bought your home in June of 2017?
Yes.
And when was Gabriel born?
The 2013, April 25th, 2013.
So you had Gabriel, and he was immediately known to be disabled?
Well, we knew that he had a brain injury. The path with Gabe has always been, let's wait and see. There's really no way to tell how a child is going to be affected by their brain injury until they grow. There's neuroplasticity. And so it was right around the time that we were buying our house that his disabilities and how severely he would be affected really started coming to light.
So by 2017, when you were buying your home, he was unfortunately profoundly disabled?
He was disabled.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that you walked through your home before you purchased it and understood how it was configured?
We did. Property in Havertown is not easy to come by. The real estate market is tight and houses go quickly. And this was a big fixer-upper that we were able to afford it. A property in Havertown was a big deal for us. And just as important as getting a house that's accessible for him was getting him into a school district that could provide services for him. So yes, we knew that we would have to make some modifications to our home when we bought it, but we also needed to get him into a school district that would serve him well.
You okay?
Yeah?
And so your understanding was that this particular home might not suit his future needs as it was presently configured?
Yeah, we knew that we would have to put on an addition, just like so many other people in our neighborhood have had to put on additions.
This probably is asking the obvious, but when you bought the property, it was functioning as a single-family home. fair to say.
Yes.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to introduce the application that you submitted, because it has your actual application plus some of the exhibits.
Sorry to interrupt. But with the recording, there's no way that anyone is hearing the questions.
Okay, I'll speak it up. I just don't want to be yelling.
I know, actually, if you want to, I can leave this over, if you want to do it from here.
I can stand up. I can stand up.
I don't
No,
think
we
they're- I don't think they're having trouble hearing me.
Okay.
They're having trouble hearing me, but I didn't want to be yelling.
No,
Now I will. Does the board have a copy of the application? It does not. I have additional.
It's not part of the record.
So I've marked this as Kenny 2.
Any one or two?
Got one extra. Ms. Rockers, I'm showing you what's been marked as
Sure.
Kenny 2.
Okay.
Can you just take a minute to look at that? I think you'll be able to confirm that's the application you submitted to the township in connection with your variance request.
Sure. Yes, this is our application.
So just a couple things. You introduced today a new, I think, Exhibit A4.
That's correct.
And are you able just to highlight for me so that I can appreciate it, what the differences may be from what was submitted as an exhibit to your application as A4?
So the differences is basically the labeling of the shower room and the first floor bedroom. We did not pursue having our architect update our plans originally to reflect those, because we didn't want to use our one chance to update it just to change some labeling. So my husband was able to do that at work, but it's just the labeling of those rooms.
So all the detail, the measurements, et cetera, are the same?
Yes.
But what I take from it is, as I took a quick look at your A4, was that what has originally was labeled office on the original Exhibit A4, it now has a reference to a proposed future bedroom.
Yeah, originally it was just labeled as what it would be served as initially, without what it would be serving us as after Gabe is no longer able to go up and down this, after we can no longer carry him up and down the stairs.
It was always intended. Sorry?
You're only one witness can testify at a time.
Oh,
Speak at a
okay.
time. I think
Sorry.
the board would appreciate that. I don't mean to jump in, Mr. Chairman, but I think that's probably the way you want to handle it.
Well, this not being a formal hearing, to the extent husband wants to help wife provide clear, complete answers for you, I'll let them. Just please don't speak over each other, and only one at a time, or Bridget will help me out.
Okay.
All right, so I'm wrong. You're right.
No? Go ahead.
Mr. Rockers, you were adding.
I was just saying, it was always intended to have to move him down to the first floor. And as he's already getting pretty big. So it's getting harder and harder to carry him up and down steps already, so.
I understand. So I appreciate that. The labeling is what's changed. It's not the dimensions or anything.
No, there's no, it's purely labeling.
Thank you.
But what is it now? What is that area now?
I'm sorry?
Does
It's
that,
that front room is a playroom. It's an enclosed porch. It's not even, like the flooring in there is a step down from the flooring in the rest of our house. So the flooring will have to be raised to be level so that he can roll in and out of that room.
but where did the term office even come from?
Because that was initially what it was going to serve us as before we move him downstairs.
Okay. Go ahead.
And so the only thing other than the change to A4, am I correct that what you marked as Exhibit A10 this evening was not originally with your application?
If it wasn't, that was an oversight, and I wasn't aware that, that's A9.
Yeah, he's saying 810 wasn't with that.
Oh, yeah, I guess that it was not. If that's the case, then that was an oversight. That was, our architect provided us with a packet, and that was always A10 in the packet.
And so just a little housekeeping on your exhibits. On Exhibit A1 and Exhibit A2, and that would be on what's been marked as Kenny 2, that would be the 4th and the 5th page. And those 4th and 5th pages are respectively identified at the upper right as Exhibit A1 and A2.
Okay.
There's an indication of my client's property as the adjacent property, and I don't know if your eyes are good enough to see, but do you see that it's been labeled as 2015 Oakmont?
Which exhibit?
I am referring the witness to what's been marked as Kenny 2, and which is
My Exhibit A1.
right, the 3rd and 4th pages of that exhibit, which are the applicant's Exhibit A1 and A2.
I honestly don't know what their address is, and this was a plot plan, or was submitted to us by the surveyor that we have come out. I didn't even look at their,
Yeah, so I don't know what will become of this record, but just for clarification, do you know that their address is 2013 Oakmont?
I didn't until you said that tonight.
Okay. Ms. Rocker, I just want to get into the particulars of the variance relief you've requested. I know that you gave the board a general overview of the reasons why you wanted the relief, but I want the record to be clear as to exactly what you're requesting. And it may be that it'll be helpful from time to time to refer to some of your exhibits, okay?
Okay.
So, in essence, do you understand that you would be requiring 3 variances? 1, a variance from the 30-foot front yard setback. 2, a variance from the minimum 8-foot side yard setback. And 3, a variance from the combined
Total.
side yard total setback of 20 feet.
It is my understanding that the 8-foot side yard setback and the total aggregate is the same section of the code, so that it's only 1 variance that is required for that. That was my understanding.
Well, whether we call it the same section of the ordinance, have I correctly stated the 3 areas of relief that you're interested in? That is the front yard, the side yard, 8-foot minimum, and the side yard, 20-foot total.
Yes, I believe that that's what what was advertised to all of our neighbors said, all of those things. Kelly and I spoke on the phone about the fact that those were the 3 things we needed relief from.
Okay, let's talk about the front yard setback first, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And when we do that, it might be useful for you to take a look at what you've marked as Exhibit A2, which also appears in Kenny 2 as the 5th page. Do you have that?
Yep.
Do you see it?
Yep.
And that is a depiction of the proposed new footprint of additions that would be added to your property, correct?
Yep.
And it's fair to say that what are the proposed new additions are shown in crosshatching, correct?
Yep.
And so, as an initial matter, am I correct that the proposed intrusion into the front yard setback that is involved with the new porch addition would be about a 15-foot incursion into that front yard?
I don't know for sure off the top of my head. All I know is that we're lining up with the already existing front of our house, with the existing front of the Kinney's houses, and with the existing front of the majority of the houses on our street.
But in terms of understanding what the extent is of the incursion, I did not immediately see it on the plan shown, and I didn't know if I was missing something or if you otherwise are able to tell us what that intrusion is. My efforts at scaling it indicated it was about 15 feet.
Well, the 30-foot setback is marked on the left side of our property right there, which kind of lines up with the front edge of what is our chimney on the left side of the property. That's obviously incredibly far back from not even the front enclosed porch, but the rest of our house as well. But yeah, I don't know off the top of my head what that measurement is.
And so, did you submit drawings that were bigger than 8.5 by 11?
I just submitted the packet that everybody sees.
The reason I ask that is, if you look to use your scale that the architect gave, which indicated that 1/16 of an inch equals 1 foot, in which case 16/16 or 1 inch should equal 16 feet, it doesn't bear out when you take a ruler and try to scale it. Have you ever tried to scale it?
No.
So talking specifically about the porch addition, am I understanding the exhibits correctly that there will be a series of steps up to a landing area that will be a structure, and then that landing area will have columns to either side of it and will have a roof on top of it?
Yes.
And that will have, then lead to a door to the interior of the home, is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's a small front porch.
Okay. Well, do you know what the dimensions of it are?
I do not.
Again, I ask that because I don't see it on the Exhibit A2 as specifically called out, nor do I see it in A4. But if it might be 15 by 15 to my eye, does that comport at all with what your
I
expectation
see a
is?
9.8 foot marking that kind of spans the front porch. I'm assuming that it is just over 9.8 feet because that doesn't, the enclosed front porch is set back just a little bit from like the actual corner of what was originally the house by maybe 6 inches, 9 inches. So I would assume that it's at most 10.5 feet wide.
It's indeed going to be something over the 9.8 that's shown as a distance on A4, so.
It is definitely less than a foot more than that 9.8.
So we're talking maybe 10.8 by 15 feet as a porch addition. That will not be an entrance for Gabriel, correct?
Correct.
You agree with that?
Yes, that's just a landing point for us to be able to enter the front of our home.
And there's no additional living space that's covered by that new structure, correct?
No, it's just a landing space for us to be able to unlock the door without being rained on, corral all my kids on the front porch without them running into the street while I get the door unlocked. Front porch.
Right. And are you aware that as depicted on Exhibit A2, the existing, what you've called office area, is already non-conforming in that it intrudes into that 30-foot setback?
Yes, just like the majority of the homes on our street. It would be my guess that the zoning laws were overlaid on top of already existing homes.
We talked a little bit about the front yard incursion. It also has with it a side yard incursion, correct? Because that porch will both extend into the front yard and will also extend into the side yard so that it will reduce the side yard setback on my client's side of the property to 4 feet.
The entire addition encroaches by 4 feet.
So that would necessarily encompass that porch area we've been talking about.
Yeah, we have to move our front door from where it is located now to our side addition, because where it's located now would enter into what will be Gabe's bedroom. So without moving the front door to the side addition, we have nowhere to have a front door.
But as things stand, I'm saying the obvious, you have a way to get in and out of your home presently, correct?
Yes, that enters into what would be Gabe's bedroom.
Do you have any other entry or exit from your house?
We have
other
a
than-
back door.
You have the back door as well? I'm going to talk a little bit now about the side addition, which, and let's focus on the upstairs portion of that. So as I looked at it, you had an indication that there would be an addition of 476 square feet. And is it fair to say that that's the footprint?
Yes.
That there's going to be a first floor plus a second floor
I believe
above?
that is the footprint. Those are the numbers that my architect gave us, but I believe that that is the footprint because it's about 40 feet long by 10 feet wide. I believe.
I'm going to ask the court reporter, or are we speaking over each other? Are you be able to get the word?
A little bit, if you
I'm
could just
sorry.
wait until he's on.
Sure.
She's trying to take my question, and so even though you can anticipate what it's going to be, if you start answering at the same time, she can't take us both down, okay? So as things stand, you already have 3 bedrooms upstairs, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
And you want to add a 4th bedroom,
Yes.
right? And you already have a bathroom upstairs, you want to expand the bathroom, correct?
Yes.
And you have a hall area, and you're going to have a little additional hall area, correct?
Yes.
And so the reason for that is essentially, now you're about to have your 5th child, you need to have room for your expanding family, right?
Yes.
The addition, as I looked at it on the plans, it's indicated that it's about 13 and a half feet wide by about 42 feet long. Does that sound about right to you? I can help you
The
out.
addition is 10 feet wide.
If you look at Exhibit A2, it looks like out by the porch area, it's about 13 feet, and then it narrows a little bit to about 10 feet, and extends back about 42 feet 3 inches.
That 13.8 feet is the distance between the side of our porch and our property line, not the side of our porch and the side of our addition.
Sorry, I'm trying to look at it. So talking about the side addition now and the downstairs, I see it looks like you're expanding your kitchen. You're putting in a bathroom which you identify as an ADA toilet, right?
And shower room, yep.
Is the shower room a new labeling?
It is a new labeling.
So it was originally labeled just as toilet, and now it's identified as toilet and shower?
Everything was initially labeled as the way that it would initially serve us before Gabe moves downstairs.
Okay, so I'm just going to call it a bathroom. So you'll have the ADA bathroom that you've identified, the expanded kitchen, and the entranceway we talked about that's on the other side of the porch that's in the front yard setback. Right?
The porch, yeah.
And then this corridor that you're discussing is shown on the plan, correct?
The what that we've been discussing?
The corridor.
Oh, yes, it's shown on the plan.
So as things stand presently, and I'll just refer you to what's been marked as A4, and you can refer to your revised A4 or the A4 that accompanies Penny 2, which is the exhibit that you had originally submitted. So you see the layout of the property as it exists, and that would be the existing living room and the existing dining room.
Yes, but those are switched.
Okay.
And they were always intended to be switched. It was just something that we didn't choose to pursue to have our architect switch the labeling.
But just identifying those spaces, are you able to see that, of course, the living room and the dining room are both much wider than the hall that's proposed to be part of the addition?
Yeah, but we can't have half of our house just be a hallway.
And you also understand that the space between the office and the living room is, as depicted on A4, wider than the hallway. And the space that's between what's marked as existing dining room and what's marked as existing living room is about equal in size to the space of the hallway.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. So you have a hallway that's proposed to be constructed that is an indication that it's 3 foot 10 inches and 1/8, as I look at Exhibit A4.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to see, are you not, that the space between the office and what is presently labeled on Exhibit 4 as either existing living room or existing dining room is actually a bit wider than that.
There is no
3 foot
space
10 area.
between those rooms. That is all one room. I don't know why our architect decided to draw a picture of a couch inside that room, but that is all one room. There's no hallway there. It's just a room.
Right, now I'm just talking about space, and are you able to look on A4?
The existing living room connects and shares a wall with the office.
Okay, and there's an opening between the office and the existing living room, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and my point was that that space, that opening.
The
is actually-
doorway?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah.
That opening, as depicted on A4, is actually wider than the hall that you propose to build as depicted in Exhibit A4.
Yes, that doorway is already existing between our front porch and our living room. That's the opening that already exists there.
And there's an opening between what's identified as the existing dining room and the existing living room, correct?
Yes, that also already exists.
And as things stand now, you're able to move Gabriel back and forth between the dining room, the living room, and the office if you wish, correct?
No.
Yes, there is, if you're asking if those doorways are wide enough for Gabe to get through, absolutely, the doorways are wide enough for Gabe to get through. The problem is not the doorways. The problem is all of the furniture and stuff that will be occupying that space and his ability to navigate around what is already not a huge room, and then we knock off 4 feet of it, and then we have to fit all of our furniture and all of our belongings into what would then be essentially a 12-foot wide space.
So there's space as the floor plan exists, and the issue is placement of furniture as you see it, correct?
The issue is the fact that we need to be able to live in these spaces with 7 people in our family. And that a 12-foot wide living room is not enough room for 7 people in our family.
All right, so to my point, as you indicated, at least in terms of mobility, you're able at present to move Gabriel between room to room, front to back, correct?
He can fit through the doorways, yes.
I just want to focus then, and for the record, and we've talked a little bit about some of it, but very specifically on the distance between your proposed side addition and my client and your client's shared property line will be 4 feet, correct?
Yes.
Do you know that then that would make the distance between your new proposed structure and my client's actual physical dwelling only about 14 feet?
I did not know that, but that seems probably roughly correct. Did you actually get out and measure that?
Sorry, I shouldn't be testifying.
Yeah,
I'm asking.
Was that actually measured?
He asked the question.
I-
He didn't ask if it was a precise measurement. He said, if I'm, and correct me if I'm wrong, does that seem right?
I would assume that our houses are about equal distance from the property line. If we're 4 feet, our new addition would be 4 feet, and they were the equal distance from the property line, I would assume that would put us at about 18 feet, but I have not measured it.
And that's the answer. You don't need to, a question
Sorry.
is an answer.
And I think it may have been one of the board members that touched on this, but in terms of what my clients would actually see of your side facade that would face their property, is it correct to say that that's undecided at this point?
Yeah, it's definitely malleable. I mean, as we expressed to them, we are more than willing to work with them on window placement and privacy shrubs and fencing and whatever it is that they do or do not want to see from their house.
So, but based on your application, they can't know themselves at this point what you intend it to look like. Is that fair to say?
Sure, yes.
You could refer to your application, that's what I presented to you as Exhibit 10E2, and go to the second page under numbered paragraph 6.
Okay.
I'm just going to read what was part of the application. By the way, do you see the signature lines, the signatures rather that appear above the wording appellant or applicant, and then there's a signature line?
Yes.
I'm asking, is that your signature and that of your husband?
Yes.
And so you had indicated in section 6, you say, currently, one of the biggest challenges that we face is the layout of our home, which is long, narrow, and undersized for our growing family. We are currently expecting baby number 5. So when you add a bedroom and you add an expanded kitchen and you add other living area apart from the ADA bathroom, the reason that you're doing that is because you're having an expanded family. You have 5 children now, and the 2 of you, 7 people living in the household. Fair to say?
That and making our house more accessible for Gabe.
Let's talk a little bit about the rear yard space which you have to construct an addition. I looked at the plan, and I'm going to refer you again to what's marked as Exhibit A2.
Okay.
So as I see it, from the back of your house structure, you have a space that's, as I see it, about 68 feet long and 40 feet wide.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure. I'm referring you to the rear yard building envelope that's to the rear of your home. You see that on
Yep.
the Exhibit A2?
Yes.
Okay, and there are dashed lines that show setback, and they create what would be your rear yard setback. You see that?
Yes.
So looking at it and comparing it to other measurements, it looks to me like it's about 68 feet long and about 40 feet wide. Is that
Are you
correct?
saying the area that, like, we could potentially build in that wouldn't be encroaching on any setback?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that would build us into our garage, but
If you went
yes.
all the way 68 feet back, correct? Correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
Right.
What were those dimensions again?
68 feet long, 40 feet wide. And that's from the rear of the structure, so that would necessarily include the area that's presently devoted to deck and patio. So I think you've acknowledged this. You recognize that you could put legally and within the zoning ordinance standards an addition, a 2-story addition on the rear of your home.
Yes.
And are you aware that, I think it's 6 other properties in the neighborhood have done just the same thing, expanded to the rear.
Properties owned by able-bodied people, yes.
Are you aware that there was actually one family that had a disabled family member, and they also expanded to the rear?
No.
So as you look to squeeze into what you have as side yard setbacks, you're aware that you could have put a ADA, larger size toilet, shower, bathroom facility in a rear yard addition, correct?
Yes, but that didn't address all of our accessibility needs.
And you could have put an additional upstairs bedroom on a 2-story addition that would be built into the rear yard, correct?
Yes, but that still wouldn't address all of our accessibility needs.
Well, as we talk, I'll put that aside. And just to be clear, Grassland Park is shown behind your property on Exhibit A2, right at the top. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Behind the park?
Yes.
And at this point, I suppose it's fair to say you're functioning as a family living in a single-family residence at this property at this time?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Rocker. I don't have any other questions for you.
Okay.
We're going to take a 2-minute recess. Okay. So, Mr. Mezzanotte, you've asked all your questions. Any other questions from the board? Jess?
No.
Ed?
No question.
Bill? Okay. Lindsay, anything else you'd like to add?
Just that I hope that you see that we have a legitimate hardship and that Gabe's disability is unique. It's not just he's in a normal wheelchair, like he has unique accessibility and mobility needs. And that we're not just looking at the next 5 to 10 years. We're looking at making our house accessible for him for the rest of his life, the rest of our lives. You know, it's hard to plan for the future with a son like Gabe. And we're just trying to do the best we can. And there's already so much of the world that's not accessible to him and never will be. And we don't think that his home should be one of those places.
We are sensitive to that. Without going into detail, I know the board is very sensitive to that. We also need to be considerate of how things impact neighbors. But it's a lot to take in, and we understand what you're dealing with. With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail about this case.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If you will, I don't know if you're going to return to me for evidence, but I do have Mr. Kenny to present.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Please proceed.
I'm assuming the applicant has finished her case.
Yes, she said.
So I'm calling Richard Kenny.
I'm gonna move out of the way.
Should I move closer?
And if you wouldn't mind, or if you're able, if you could stand at the podium.
Oh, I can stand up,
So you can speak into
certainly,
the
certainly.
microphone.
Certainly.
And please, pull that mic back up.
Okay,
Please raise your right hand.
okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Richard Andrew Kenny, 2013 Oakmont Avenue, Havertown.
Go ahead.
Mr. Kenny, I'm going to try to be quick with you, recognizing that the board has other matters to attend to. So you have indicated where you reside. Do you own that property, and do you own it with your wife, Denise Kenny, who's right behind you in the audience this evening?
Yes,
And am I correct that you purchased your home in 2002,
correct,
and you've lived there ever since?
correct.
You've raised a family there?
Yes,
And how many children did you have?
3 children.
I am going to show you what I've pre-marked as Kenny 1.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Mr. Kenny, can
Do
you?
do you have an extra copy to give to the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Kenny, so are you looking at what's been marked as Kenny 1?
I am.
And just to orient the board, it's not unlike an exhibit that was accompanied, the exhibit that accompanied the applicant's submission. But can you just orient the board as to what they're seeing? And very specifically, there's a depiction of a series of homes. One home has an X on it that's right beside the tennis court. So can you orient the board as to what it's looking at?
The house with the X on it is the Rockers, and the one above it is my house, and the one below it is, I have the name here of the people, 20.
When you say above, the one labeled 2013, that's.
2013 is our house, correct.
So if you're looking at the exhibit, that would be the house that's closer to the top of the page, correct?
Correct,
If the tennis courts are on the left.
correct.
And so you have marked a couple of the houses on this property. Is it correct that there are about 6 properties on the street that expanded their homes with additions?
Yes,
And were you in fact one of those homes?
yes, we,
And did you expand your home into the rear yard?
yes, we did.
And did everybody else who expanded also expand to the rear yard?
Yes.
Could you give the board just a general overview of the particulars of your home addition?
Our house was pretty much looking like the house with the X on it. We had, with the exception that we had a bathroom built to the back of the house for an elderly resident. It was limited to 1 floor. And then when we moved in, we needed an additional bedroom, and we wanted additional space, and we built a family room and an additional bedroom upstairs.
Right. And I'm just going to work our way through other homes that had additions so that you can give the board just a sense of the character of the neighborhood and the character of the additions that have been put on different properties. So let's work our way down. We see your house. Right below that is the Rockers home. And then there's a property that's marked 2025. You see that? Or 2023, I think.
I think that should be 2033. I think I mislabeled it.
Okay. And so is 2033 a property that was owned by Seth Brody and Kathleen Groppe?
It is currently owned by them.
Okay. And was there an expansion of that property?
They did a very large 3-story expansion
And where did they expand?
to the rear.
And if we go further down, what is the next property that had an addition that you can identify for the board?
They addressed 2111, and that was the Garveys,
And what did they build?
a large 3-story addition to the rear.
And was it exclusively into the rear yard?
Yes,
And right below that, I see a property that's marked as 2115. And who owns that property?
the Fruscios.
Can you spell that?
I can. I'm embarrassed that I have to look it up since I know them all.
Could it be
For 20 years.
DEFRUSCIO?
Yes, DE,
Stephen Maureen?
yes.
And so could you describe for the board what the that family did with respect to their home.
When they had moved in, there was a already existing 20-foot extension had been built on that was 20 feet wide. And it was an in-laws quarter with a very large bedroom. They removed the walls and the expansion to make an open space and built bedrooms above. They added bedrooms above.
And so, was there a property that would be indicated as 2105, owned by Brad and Nicole Barron?
They're the current owners. Sorry, I did miss that when we went through the list. They're the current owners. The house was previously owned by Mr. Kelly, and Mr. Kelly had a severely handicapped daughter, and he built on the back of the house a bedroom and a bedroom and a bathroom.
And that was for his severely handicapped daughter?
Yes,
That was 2105, and is that the property that actually has a little red drop-like insignia on top of it?
yes, it is.
Excuse me, Mr. Vice Chairman, I see the chair is absent. Shall I continue?
Yeah, you can continue.
Mr. Kenny, can you talk to the board a little bit about how, I recognize it's difficult. It's difficult for all of us here with the Rockers under their circumstances, and I imagine it's difficult for you as well to be taking a position on their application. But what is it that concerns you and your property in regard to this application?
Well, first, I'd like to say I have a lot of empathy for it and for the family, and we feel horrible the situation they're in. But we did talk to them in March the first time, and then we talked to them in April saying, and we had a great session with them. We're still good neighbors with them, but we were overwhelmed when we first heard the story. And the more we looked at it, the more we looked at other houses, we were wondering why it wasn't done a different way. And then we looked around. We did ask Lindsay and Scott for samples of houses like this, and that would be like it. And we did ask if they had anything like that, so we could get a visualization of what a two-story house 14 feet away from ours would be. And we've never come up with one, so we've never said yes to it. We were a little surprised we were called to the hearing. We think it would really hurt our property value. We think if someone was looking for a house in Haverford Town, they would buy everyone else on the block or the blocks around, not this one, if it has a large house next to it. And it would also, the house that close would cut off the sunlight to our dining room, and and we would be dealing with noise from the house that close. And we would not have bought the house originally if we were driving around. That was a clinchy moment when we were saying, well, if we had driven around the Haverford Town, we wouldn't have bought this house if it was a house that close.
And would you feel a bit like that Rocker's house would be on top of you and your house?
Correct.
And we talked a little bit as I was asking questions of Ms. Rocker about the distance that would exist between your actual physical home and the Rocker addition if it was built as proposed. Did you investigate that?
I did, but I did want to measure in the crisis of the last couple of weeks and go in and put a tape measure on the ground. We started to do that last night. We just stopped. But I counted off the distance. And I measured from our backyard to the fence and calculated out a couple different ways. And I came to around 13.8 feet, maybe 14 feet. But I didn't want to sit down and do an actual calculation.
Can I just ask a clarifying question on that?
Sure.
So 13.8 feet from the side of your existing house
On the side of our side window that all the houses
Okay.
curve out a little
to the property line or
to where their house would be.
all right, so you are approximately 9.5 feet from the property line, because their plan, I think, shows essentially a 4-foot gap between the property line and
I think
the side
that would be right. I might be off by 6 inches, but I'm not off by more
So
than that.
somewhere between 13 and 14 feet.
Correct.
By your estimation.
Correct.
Between their proposed side of their house and the side of your existing house.
Correct.
And lastly, in terms of consistency with the character of the neighborhood, and I know that you went through with the board some of the other properties and what's been depicted on what was marked as Kenny 1, is it your belief that a side yard addition to the Rockers property would not be in character with the remaining portion of the neighborhood and specifically all the other additions that have been done on the street?
It would not. It would be the closest houses within blocks, probably. Definitely on our block.
Thanks very much, Mr. Kenny. I don't have any other questions. The applicant may.
So, Mr. Rocker, you do have the chance to ask a question if you would like.
I'm not sure that I have a question. I definitely question that their house is only 9 feet from the property line, but again, I haven't measured, so I don't know that for sure. But, I mean, if you look at our packet, it definitely looks like they're a similar distance from their property line that we are. So, for them to be 5 feet closer to their property line than us, I would question that, but I don't have the measurement. I don't think that we're close enough to block their light or for noise to be a problem. I mean, this is new addition, new construction, and I still think we're probably about 16 feet from their property. I don't think that they would be able to hear anything in our house, but I don't have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kenny? Jess?
No questions.
Ed?
No question.
Bill? No. Okay, neither do I. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other witnesses?
No other witnesses, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I would do is, as a formality, offer into evidence what's been marked as Kenny 1 and Kenny 2.
They're admitted. Okay. And now, is there anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify about this case? Anyone present that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford? Yes. Please come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Cheryl, Cheryl Donnelly, Donnelly, 2016 Oakmont Avenue, Havertown, PA 19083.
What would you like to tell me, Cheryl?
I live across the street and a couple driveways down from the Rockers, and I'm just here to hear what's going on. And I guess I'm concerned about the closeness. I am concerned about the closeness, but I guess you did a really good job of presenting your floor plan and your need for the accessibility.
Cheryl, please address the board.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The accessibility, so I'm not as conflicted knowing that, but I do understand the obligation of the zoning board is to maintain the integrity of the zoning laws. So I'm not sure what I want to say. I guess my biggest concern is the closeness of the property. In terms of noise, all the houses on Oakmont Avenue are close, depending on what your perspective of proximity is. If you're coming from the country, our houses are very close together. If you're coming from the city, they're far apart. So you always hear the noise from your next door neighbors if your windows are open or you're outside. I think noise from whether it's 8 feet or 10 feet is not that important. I don't know. But I guess that's all. My concern is not the frontage. I do have a question about aggregate. What does that mean?
Both sides combined.
What do you
So
mean?
if the setback is 8 feet minimum on either side and the aggregate were 20 feet, for example,
Okay,
if it was 8 feet on one side, it would need to be 12 on the other to meet the aggregate, the combined 20
I understand.
foot.
Okay, I didn't
Just
know.
for example.
Okay, and then I guess questions too about water. I know that water is an issue in Havertown.
Yeah,
in-
we're water runoff and how that would be directed are a few questions that the board didn't even get into yet, but we have 2 other cases on the agenda
Okay.
tonight, so we're not
All right.
going to,
So
we're
they,
going to continue this case at the end of
all right,
of
so
this.
that was my only My only concern was the side, but I'm less concerned after the presentation. I think that the mock-up maintains the integrity of the Dutch Colonial in Havertown, even with that side addition. And I do understand the Kenny's concern. It is close, it's close. It's structure right next to you. I don't know. That's my.
Any questions for Cheryl? Jess, Ed, Bill? Question? No? Okay. Anyone else that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? All right,
If the board, please, before you adjourn this case, I just have a submission of a brief to give to the board and a minute for closing.
okay, and at the conclusion of this, when you're done, I'm going to continue this hearing because we would need to see a stormwater management or some sort of water runoff plan where would the water from your addition, if it were constructed on the side of your house, be directed and how would it be controlled so that it didn't adversely impact neighbors. I think we would like to know exactly what the finish would be, so that's not, left up in the air. The finish, yes. The exterior finish, like stucco, brick, whatever the case might be.
Cardboard siding.
Okay, but you might bring a picture of that so we could see it. But go ahead.
Well, if we're discontinued and not concluded,
But I'd like to receive the case that you're talking about, and if you have closing remarks, we're going to continue it, but we're not going to take a lot of additional testimony at the next
yeah,
hearing.
I didn't know whether you just let land development handle
No.
the runoff part of it.
We do that.
It's your call, yeah.
So go ahead, John.
I'm going to be as good as my word on the timing. The brief that I gave you folks was simply to identify some cases that would be particularly pertinent with this application. I cited case law that indicates that for purposes of a variance, disability is not a hardship. It's not a hardship peculiar to the property, and of course with variance, that's what the board is looking to see, that there's some hardship that is generated by a physical condition. I also had provided you with some case law on the fact that the mere desire for more space, if a property is able to be used, doesn't constitute a requisite hardship for a variance. I think there was testimony this evening from the applicant about the desire to expand it so they'd have more room. I also cited a case that relates to de minimis issues, and I'm sure the board has dealt with this before when somebody comes before the board and says, we're just dealing with 4 feet, that's nothing. But in the case where 4 feet is 50% of the 8 feet, the de minimis considerations don't apply. And then there's just a general provision that with a property, if it can be used for a permitted purpose, that means there's no basis for a variance. Of course, in this case, we know that the applicant's property is being actively used as a single-family residence consistent with the zoning ordinance. And lastly, because this involves a dimensional variance, and you probably get the Hertzberg case thrown at you each time that you deal with it, I just recited the updated law that says, just because there is a different perspective on dimensional variances, it doesn't mean that there's any less of a requirement for the applicant to prove a serious hardship. And boy, this is a tough case. It's really a tough one. I understand the rocker situation, but my clients also have a home that they've invested everything they have. It's just everything to them. And just to be candid, the rockers just haven't made a case for a variance. Same requirements apply as with any variance case. You need to prove that there's a physical condition of the property that causes a hardship. And there was zero testimony on that. In fact, if you looked at the photos, you're able to see that this is just a carbon copy of every other lot that's on the neighborhood. And then when we look at the fact that, God bless them, they're dealing with a disability, the case law doesn't elevate that to a variance basis. It's not a physical condition of the property. In this case, I think that may be something you're wrestling with. Be assured that the case law is not against Kenny's in this instance. And lastly, and it's hard to say this, but one of the considerations for variance is that the situation not be self-created. And I don't fault the Rockers for selecting their home, but they were candid and honest in saying that they knew Gabriel had his condition. They knew it from 2013, certainly by 2017 when they were buying the property. They knew that he was greatly impaired. The property they bought was the property they bought. It just didn't have the expansion possibilities that they're looking for. It has plenty of expansion possibilities to the rear yard. Everybody else in the township and the neighborhood rather is taking advantage. So whether you want to call it self-created or whether you want to say there is plenty of alternative opportunity, I think that the bottom line is that the case for a variance doesn't exist. Thanks very much.
With that, and so will it be possible for you to bring where you propose to direct the water and exterior finishes if your application was approved with you to a hearing on September 5th?
Yes.
Okay, and John, presumably you'll want to be present. This would be the first case listed that night, and it won't take much time. Would you be available on September 5th? September 5?
I'll be on vacation, Labor Day week, right? On
Yes,
vacation
that's
that
We
week.
give
When's our next? 19th? So, how about the 19th?
Sure, I'm good with it.
Are you available on the 19th?
I am. Oh, sorry.
I think so. I would also like to say that, we had approached the Kennys in February and followed up with him in person and by phone several times and before applying, and that they never told us that they objected to our plans despite us following up. And so they did tell us after we finally applied and they had gotten their notification that they were objecting. We definitely had no idea that they would be bringing a lawyer tonight. We're a little bit blindsided by the fact that we don't have any kind of representation. We had no idea that it was going to be like this.
Well, the case is being continued, not concluded. Would you be available on the 19th?
Yeah. Yep, we can make ourselves.
Right date, right? Cal, is that the right date? Okay. So with that, we will continue this case to our September 19th hearing. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. All right. There's Lawrence Morton. You have a lot of exhibits?
I just have a copy
should
of the
ask,
packet that
Are
you
they
were-
marked?
Nothing's marked, I just have a copy of what I turned in earlier.
Would it be helpful to you?
I'm
Would it
sorry?
be helpful if our solicitor here came around and looked at what you are looking at? and
Feel free.
Okay.
Or I can bring it over to you.
Off the record. Okay. Our next case is E19-22, Lawrence Norton, owner of 636 Dayton Road, Bryn Mawr, PA, DC folio number 220500249900, who seeks to construct a 12-foot by 18-foot deck in the rear yard, requiring a variance from the provisions of Section 182-208C1D to further exceed the 40% maximum building coverage permitted on the lot. Section 182-208C1F1 to encroach into the 7-foot side yard setback on each side and to provide a 0-foot aggregate, and sections 182-208C1G to encroach into the rear yard setback. Property is zoned R6 and located in the 5th Ward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Lawrence Joseph Norton, 636 Dayton Road, Bryn Mawr.
Okay. And before we went off the record, our solicitor was kind enough to discuss exhibit marking with you. So do you have exhibits that you'd like to present to the board?
Yes, sir.
And how many are there?
There's 4.
And if you want to just refer to how each has been marked and give a brief description of what it is, that would be great. So A1 is?
A1 is the zoning board application.
Okay. A2?
A2 is an agreement of sale.
A3?
My architectural drawings.
And A4?
4 photos from my backyard, or of my backyard.
And please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do.
Thank you for your time this evening. I would like to build a deck on the back of my property. I own a row home in Dayton Road in Bryn Mawr. Main reason we're looking for a deck is my girlfriend and I both come from large families. I'm one of 5 with 8 nieces and nephews. She's one of 12 with nieces and nephews, and we frequently have visitors, and we'd like to more frequently have family visitors and events, birthdays, holidays that we can't do right now. So we're looking to expand out the back with a deck so that we can host some more family gatherings. We also enjoy the pole, we back into the polo field, I'm sorry. That's the 3 pictures that you have. It's standing from the back step, or back door of my kitchen. We enjoy looking out there and watching the games that are going on between Haverford and Lower Merion. They do a very nice job of maintaining the field. The kids get to play in the swings and the basketball court. We'd just like to have more space to enjoy it. That's it in a nutshell.
Ed?
The question is, your deck in the neighboring property, you don't have a plot plan to show how the neighboring property, do they have decks in their property?
Houses on either side of me both have decks. Most of the houses have put on decks of varying sizes. I don't know specifics, but I'm probably, right now I have a back step that's about 4 by 6, just a cement slab out back with a step down to the yard. Most of the other houses have expanded somewhat with some sort of deck.
Without the plot plan, I don't know how far it is to the rear property line. Do you have that measured out?
It is, the rear property, well, it's at an angle. If you go from roughly the let's see, the short side, 21 feet, and it's a 5-foot swing on the long side, so 26 feet.
From the property line to what?
From the, so,
You're looking
on the short side,
You're looking at Exhibit A3.
yes, I'm sorry.
To A3, and the measurement on the bottom right, where it shows 20-foot property line?
Yes.
Okay, please. continue.
So, I'll elaborate. This is the picture the proposed deck against the house. From the house out to the short side, the left-hand side, that's about 20 feet, 21 feet, excuse me. The long side is a 5-foot difference, so it's 26 foot. So I think the rear setback is 25 foot. That kind of puts it, depending on where you are in the back property line, that kind of puts it a foot or few inside my back door. That makes sense?
Oh, I missed that part. Explain that again.
I can't mark.
So currently,
I'm
you
a
don't have,
pointer.
property's not in compliance, you don't have 25-foot setback from the rear of the property?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the 26 feet that you're measuring on the one side goes to the existing house or to your deck?
Existing house.
You know, on the surrounding properties, whether your deck is going to stick out further than anyone else?
On the houses on immediate left and right, mine will stick out more. I don't know about the entire street.
And if they have decks that they've expanded, why do you need to have larger?
Usable space. They have, I've seen what they have, and they don't have the family to my one side, I'm 6'3", so 6'4" is, they just have a slightly larger postage stamp than I do. And they've expressed interest in seeing what mine looks like and possibly doing something similar to what I do down the road.
Therein lies the problem. Therein lies the problem there. If you keep expanding, everybody's not in compliance, and you're making it worse. That's what we're trying to avoid. I'm not hearing anything that suggests that your lot has a problem. So when you bought the property, what's your hardship for meeting?
To be, it's a personal issue. We'd like to, we can't host any family functions. There's just no room. The house is 1,300 square foot. And we just, I'm one of 5. You bring my 4, I'm all brothers. You bring my 4 brothers, spouses, and 8 kids in, there's just no room. My better half is from Ireland. She's one of 12. She has nieces and nephews that are visiting frequently. It's just, it's tough to enjoy without standing on top of each other.
Talking about needing to have justify condition of the decks and joining your property. You're proposing it. The other thing that's a problem when you're talking about expanding your decks, trying to make it so more people can attend, come to your property for events. Parking.
Well, the end of the street is open parking, and most of our events are weekends. A lot of those spots are taken up by the local businesses, and I work odd hours. I come home at night, I always have a spot to park. But during the day, you're familiar with the area, there's a Platoon Fitness has some overflow, there's a nail shop that has overflow. We've seen them come around from the bakery. That's the bulk of the volume. But what we're looking at is, again, family-type events, birthday dinners, holiday dinners, when there's it's just the primary residence there, and that open section along the field is more than enough. And we're not, and we get along with our neighbors very well. We're not talking about parking for a day or two. It's a few hours for a family event.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Ed?
No, but I think the concept of having those photographs to see how this fits in with the rest of the neighbors. Beneficial to my making a decision.
Jessica, do you have any questions?
I'm just curious, underneath the deck, is it just going to be dirt?
Stone, it'll be, we're gonna put some sort of covering. It won't be open. You won't be able to look straight back to the foundation. It'll be
But
enclosed.
the actual surface below. So I guess I'm wondering, when water drains through, is it going onto a solid surface?
Oh, no, it'll
Or
be,
it'll just
it'll
be
be stone,
dirt?
or, yeah, I'm not gonna concrete it or anything like
Okay.
that. No, 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 no.
Okay, no further questions.
Bill?
Remind me, Dayton Road permit parking,
Yes.
so you don't have a permit. Where do people park?
As you turn on the street, left-hand side, from Penn, yes. If you turn on from Penn, it's one way, so, the left-hand side is the, polo field. And from the polo field, about I don't know, 25%, 30, 20, quarter to a third of the way up is open parking because there's no houses there.
Okay.
So that's generally where the overflow goes.
And when the houses start, how many houses, are you you have a house on both sides, so you're not the first house?
Correct. I am the fourth door on the left.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Gargi. I think we need to see what the houses, 3 or 4 on either side of yours look like, as far as the idea that you may be further than your neighbors, even though they're not here, it may, or maybe they are. It's a factor that we need to look at. I agree. I think we should give you a chance to take some pictures or figure out if you can take some aerial Google map photos and show us what the other decks in your block or whatever look like.
Okay.
I agree. And what Ed meant by therein lies the problem is, so you want to construct one that's 2 or 3 feet further back than your neighbor. So the neighbor, they want to construct one that's 2 or 3 feet further back than you. Then you end up with decks that are
Understood.
almost to the property line. And,
This goes about, again, I don't have the exact measurements, but it goes about halfway out the backyard.
and therefore, Mr. McCargy would like to see pictures of the joining, or the decks that the neighbors have, and actual measurements, if you can provide them, of how far out they go. It's difficult sitting back here, right? Like, to get this variance, you need a hardship. So you say you need more space because you and your Irish woman are married to one. Good luck. Wait, we're on television. I'll take that back. Only kidding. Don't beat me up. You need more space. And like, we get that. And it may or may not be technically a hardship under the code, but certainly, if it's on the border, making something much bigger than the neighbors because they already have them probably won't work, because guaranteed all your neighbors will let them come in. And we don't want to have that, but seeing what they have, if you could provide some more information, I think it would be helpful to you.
Could I ask a question as far as the hardship? So I'm in a row home, so the 7-foot side yard encroachment goes out the window. 25-foot setback, like I said, depending on which corner you're at, is going to end up inside my kitchen, so that kind of goes out the window.
So you might have heard the lawyer earlier ask, did you know what the circumstances were when you bought the house? That's because if
Okay.
you knew what they are when you bought it, you know what you got. But your lot is irregularly shaped.
Understood.
So, but that helps you when you come in to get relief from a zoning request. So I don't want to go any further than that, except to say, would you like to continue the case so you could bring pictures in?
Sure.
And maybe more specific measurements or comparison to the neighboring decks? Ed, is there anything else that you would like?
No, well, the other thing was the height. What is the height that this is going to go?
Let me see if it has it on here. I don't think it's,
Yeah, no, I didn't see the map.
yeah, I don't think it is.
One of the things we usually worry about too is that we don't have storage.
No, I mean, a lawnmower for what's left of my backyard.
Thank you. We would need that measurement too.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask if there's any residents here that receive certified mail that wish to testify. Anyone that received regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township, just as a courtesy to those who might have come out tonight for this case. With that, we're going to continue this to our September 5th hearing, at which time Lawrence is going to bring some pictures and we'll wrap the case up that night.
Yeah, I don't know, Ed, did you say you're looking for all the dimensions along the various lengthening rear setback, but from the existing and the proposed new deck, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Say that one more time, please.
That when you come back with a site plan, like an overhead view of the house, the deck, and the property within it, you know, all those within the property line?
Uh-huh.
Just to give us the clear dimensions of exactly how far is your porch, your staircase and everything from the back property line.
Okay.
What
Can I come up, maybe, and I'm not sure, I apologize, the architect is supposed to, so this section.
What I'm really saying is, here's your property line.
Yeah.
So what's this distance?
Ah.
What is this?
So, the house to this corner is 21 feet.
We don't have to go through it now.
Yeah.
No, okay.
But it needs
But
to be
that's-
shown and measured by
So, okay,
by
so you
someone
want that
who knows
on,
what they're doing.
okay, you want that on there, okay.
Okay. With that, we'll continue this case to our September 5th hearing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to take a chance that you're ready for us and come on up.
Because I know the organized presentation.
I'm going to be brief. My name is James Buckler. I'm here on behalf of Rare Sexton Homes LLC, which is the equitable owner of the property at 305 Ellis Road. This is a property that is approximately 2 acres, a little over 2 acres.
A little too casual with you, James. I need to read the description of the case in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Our next case is D19-23, Rare Sexton Homes LLC, equitable owner, 301-305 Ellis Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2204 0033400, who seeks a special exception to the provisions of section 182, 720 C5C to allow the construction of a driveway for a single-family detached dwelling in an area of steep slope. Property is on R1 and located in 4th.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Yes.
Like closing the door after the horse got away. We didn't, we have one board member.
He's going to participate.
You got it.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Okay, as I started to say, this is a property that's in the process of being subdivided, and and I have a couple of exhibits, but this, what's up here is a large version of the of the plan that was attached to the application, the zoning application. And it shows the property, and this is Ellis Road, and as I'm sure you're aware, Ellis Road comes up here, spins around, and is a state highway, and then it turns around this way and is a township road, which is primarily residential. Proposed to subdivide the property into 2 lots, demolish the existing house, and build 2 new homes on the property. There is a small area of steep slope. There's no very steep slope. There is a small area of steep slope. Pretty obvious if you look at the existing conditions that steep slope was created when they built the house and they leveled out the driveway, the front yards. They had a nice sloping front yard, and they cut into where the road was. In order to access the road here, we have to cross that steep slope. I want to make it clear that we are disturbing less than the permitted amount of steep slope. We're disturbing less than 15% of the steep slope. Except for the fact that we are putting a use in here that requires a special exception, the proposal we have here is zoning compliant. The question becomes whether we're going to front these houses on Ellis Road State Highway or Ellis Road Township Road. The sensible way to do it from a planning perspective is to put those fronting on a residential street that's a township highway as opposed to a state highway, which has about 7,000 cars a day passing over it, not too far from a place where there's a curve in the road.
Jim, first, would you have this marked so we can?
I actually have three. I have 3 exhibits, which I was going to have marked. Exhibits A1, which is a redacted copy of the agreement of sale, which I'll have Mr. Rayer identify. We have present Chris Yan, who is the project engineer who is handling the subdivision plan and who prepared the subdivision plans, and most particularly the illustrative site plan, which is on the easel. And then that's A2, and then A3 is a smaller version of the illustrative site plan that was which was attached to the zoning application. I think I'm stated as simply as possible. That is what this is about. We want to place the houses facing on the township portion of the Ellis Road because it makes the most sense. It's the safest way to do it, in order to do that, we have to cut through a very small amount of steep slope. The ordinance provides for such a situation, and we're asking for a special exception. I'm prepared to have Mr. Yan address the engineering issues and also the issues that are part of the special exception ordinance.
And is that the only relief that?
That's the only relief that we require here is that.
So orient me a little, if you would.
Okay.
Where is Marion?
Right here.
West.
The parking lot up here runs along here, this side of the road. So as you're coming up, Marion is on the left, Ellis Road is on the right, and when you get up to this point here, the road jogs a little bit to the right, and it stops being, does it become Ardmore Avenue? It comes right here, it becomes Ardmore Avenue. Ellis Road goes this way.
Yes.
But the state route keeps going this way, jogs a little to the left and then up to the right. There's an existing house that sits down here on this.
Oh, so there's not an existing house that has ingress to Ellis Road State Highway?
There is. I mean, there's an existing, this house has two points of access. It accesses here and here. I expect that this access doesn't get used very much. My guess is it only gets used for coming home, and it wouldn't be the way I'd exit the property. That would just be my guess. But it really doesn't matter, because that's not really the question. The question isn't whether there is existing access there. The question is whether it's the most sensible access.
Will that access be, on Ellis, be closed?
The one on the state highway and else would be closed, yes. The only accesses that would be on the plan would be the two that are shown on here. These two driveways over here, this access here would be eliminated.
So you're potentially reducing the number of cars? egress, ingress onto Ellis State Highway?
Absolutely. We would just, there would be none accessing or egressing this site from,
And if this application was approved, you would agree to that as a condition of approval?
sure that we wouldn't have any access onto Ellis, the state highway.
I didn't interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I would ask, we have two witnesses that, for purpose of making the record, should be sworn. That would be Mark Rayer.
Been a while since we've seen you at one of them. You swear to tell the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your full name and
Mark Rayer,
the capacity that you appear tonight for the board.
70 East Clearfield Road.
Can you spell your full name, please?
Mark, M-E-R-K, Rayer, R-A-Y-E-R.
And Mark, are you a member of Rayer Sexton Homes LLC?
Yes.
Okay, and does Rayer Sexton Homes currently have an agreement of sale to purchase the property at 301, 305 Ellis Road?
Yes.
Yes, and is that agreement still in force and effect?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit A1, which is a redacted copy of that agreement of sale. I'm going to ask you if this is in fact the copy of the agreement of sale that you signed.
Yes.
And is that your signature on the last page of that agreement?
Yes.
Those are the only questions I have for Mr. Rayer.
I have one. Bill?
Yeah, so I'm familiar with the corner. So there's currently one house, and where is that house located? And they use the, have we identified these as lot 1 and lot 2 on this? Yeah, so is the driveway for lot 2 the existing driveway?
No, none of the driveways are the existing driveway.
So-
None of the proposed driveways would be the
None
existing
of the
driveways.
proposed are existing. So they're all of the existing driveway, all the existing improvements, all the existing.
Impervious.
Are all coming out.
Correct.
And, when you cut through it sounded like you were making a statement that the steep slope was caused by the road grading of Ellis Road?
No. I'm sure that Ellis Road was there before the house was built. What I'm saying to you is, when the house was built, in order to create a flat, instead of having the yard run uphill from the house to the road, in order to create a reasonably flat front yard, when they put the house in, they graded and I'm saying this.
Thereby created
Yes,
steepness
yes.
adjacent to the road.
This is a downgrade. This is the existing house, and you can see there's a driveway that comes in here, and there's a driveway that goes out there.
Yeah.
And this is the downgrade. What I'm saying is, in order to, instead of having this ground grade up to the road, it's reasonably, I'm pretty confident that what happened was they leveled this out, and that created this steep slope.
So you believe that it was sloping from the front to the back or back to the front
What,
of the existing property?
the existing, it's,
Originally,
it clearly, the whole
water
site
runs from the
slopes this
upper,
way.
okay,
The
water
whole
runs from
site
the
slopes this
corner of
way.
Ellis back to the back corner of Dad.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
going uphill as you go up Ellis Road this way.
So that's a downhill slope in which you now have a steep slope that runs counter to the flow of the land.
No, it's just a steeper slope. That little bit of cutout is steeper than the surrounding slope. In other words, Chris, am I saying that this whole site,
The drawing you gave us is so small that I can't really read the gradients. So this slopes down to the road, to Ellis Road?
no, it slopes, no, the ground slopes away from, Ellis Road is higher,
Okay, got it.
and the ground slopes away from Ellis.
And then, so that they exacerbated, you think, the slope of the land when they put that existing house in?
Or over here, these slopes aren't steep. It's only right in here where they were cut out.
And what would be the plan for the shoring of the slopes when the driveway goes through?
Well, we're not cutting any slopes.
You're not cutting in?
We're not cutting slopes. We're going to be adding to them. In other words, it's like this. So we're going to be.
You're going to be filling?
We're going to be filling. Yeah, there's no cut involved. I think that's it. We're going to be filling this little area here. in this little area here, we're going to be filling this up so that the driveway can access.
And how far will the fill go on either side of the driveway?
I'm going to ask Mr. Yan to.
Okay, that's fine.
To answer those questions because he's more. Do you want to swear Mr. Yan?
Of course.
Want me to mark your exhibit?
I'm sorry, this is Exhibit A1? This is A2. And this is A3.
Are you going to mark the exhibit on the board and then hand that up? So
Would you prefer to have the larger exhibit? I didn't know what would be better for the record purposes to have.
I think for the record, it's very difficult to read.
Okay,
this one.
okay. Well, then we'll make that one A3. Can we do that then? That's fine.
You just need to remember to leave it.
That? Okay, we can do that. I'm only marking one page. That's only my intention. I mean, I just don't think the whole subdivision plan is there, but it's really not relevant. So page 4, the illustrative site plan of that plan is what's intended to be Exhibit A3.
okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and capacity in which you appear for the board, please.
Christopher Charles Yon. Yon is Y-O-H-N.
Mr. Yan, are you a licensed professional engineer?
Yes, since 2006.
Okay, and are you the principal of Yan Engineering?
Yes, I am.
And I'm going to show you a document which has been marked as A2, and I'm going to ask you if you can identify that.
Yes, that's my CV.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I've had Mr. Yan testify as an expert in numerous other jurisdictions. He's not testified here, to the best of my knowledge, before. I'd be glad to go through his CV if you'd like me to, but if you feel that's necessary, I'll leave that to your. But I would offer him as an expert to talk about the plan which he's prepared.
Hold on one second. Yeah. What I want you to- Yes, we want the CV.
Okay.
And
I don't think we have to go through it.
Okay,
It speaks
I'll
for
offer
itself.
this, I'll enter the CV into evidence.
And if I may, you are currently licensed as a professional engineer, is that correct?
Yes.
And have you ever been subject to discipline or censure?
No.
Have you ever, what was your question?
I asked him if
have you ever been subject to discipline or censure? He said no.
Chris, you're
Wait,
civil engineer?
shoot.
Yes.
Wait a second.
Do you want the CV mark?
You already did, that was A2.
Oh, I did, oh.
Yeah, A2. Okay. Mr. Yan, did you prepare the subdivision plan regarding this property?
Yes, I did.
And as part of that, did you prepare the document which has been marked as Exhibit A3 and is called an illustrative site plan?
Yes.
Okay. And can you describe for the board what that plan shows? And I guess specifically addressing the question of the placement of the houses and the frontage.
This is the site plan that shows the existing topography, trees, as well as the proposed property line, buildings, driveways, topography, proposed grading, stormwater management design, and other utilities. And so, just a brief description, north is straight up, and so the state route part of Ellis Road runs from northeast to southwest, and the township part of Ellis Road runs from southeast to northwest. And so what this plan shows is the property line bisecting property in a southwest to northeast direction, basically perpendicular to the township part of Ellis Road, a new home on either side, and both of those driveways access.
Was the decision as to the placement of the houses and the siting of the access points a conscious decision?
Yes.
And can you explain the reason behind that?
Sure, as you said, it was really a planning decision that
given the choice of the two streets, Ellis Road to Township Road has a speed limit of 25. Ellis Road State is 30 miles per hour. State Road is about 9%, whereas the Township Road is about 4%, so it's flatter. It has much less traffic. It's more of a residential road that has more residential homes, and so in terms of preference, this would be the road that you'd want the new homes to front.
And that would be the road you'd want the driveways to access as well for ingress and egress?
Correct.
Let's talk about the site just a little bit. There is some steep slope on the site, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any very steep slope on the site?
No.
And in order to access Ellis Road on the Township Road side, you do have to cross over some steep slope on one lot, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And can you tell me how much steep slope is being disturbed in order to create that access point?
So the total area of the steep slope shown in red on the plan is almost 5,000 square feet. It's 4,977, and the proposed disturbance is 745 square feet, which is just a hair under the 15% allowable. Basically, we are eliminating this southeastern portion of it. And so this whole area on the top will be, and it's this area where the new driveway goes, that will be.
Okay. You've looked at this. Is it your opinion that the steep slopes that are on there are man-made steep slopes?
We haven't done any testing to verify that, and we don't have any plans to prove it, but given the topography around it and the existing home, I think that's
Okay. I will.
That is the most candid.
Yep.
I've heard to that question, which I've heard a million times, and I respect it. Thank you.
Okay. You heard me refer to the traffic volume on the state highway. Do you have any idea what the traffic volume is?
according to the PennDOT website, it was a little under 7,000.
Daily trips?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to just take a minute, and I'm going to go through, for the record, there are a number of criteria that are supposed to be addressed in any consideration of a special exception. And so I'm going to ask you if the proposed development of the property and the proposed access points on the township side of Ellis Road, in your opinion, are suitable for the property, for the use desired. Is the property suitable for that use?
Yes.
Okay. And is the proposed special exception, will it injure or detract from the use of the neighboring properties or the character of the neighborhood?
No.
Will the special exception serve the best interest of the township, the convenience of the community, and the public welfare?
Yes.
Will the proposed special exception have a positive effect on the logical and efficient and economical extension of public services and facilities?
Yes.
And were any of the circumstances for which the special exception is sought created by the current owner, by the applicant?
No.
I don't have any other questions for this witness.
I only had the one question you could answer it, which was, what are you going to do about, once you build up the driveway, right, is it going to be then re-sloped down to the existing? Are you going to stone?
So we're basically cutting off this section of the steep slope. We're putting a wall in here, which has a maximum height of 2.5 feet. And so currently, if the slope is a little more than 15%, we are flattening that out. So the maximum slope of the driveway is now going to be 6%. So we're trying to flatten that out a little bit so the driveway isn't as steep. So that ends up filling over the slopes. And so on the northern side of the driveway, we're holding that fill by a small retaining wall. And on the southern side of the driveway, we're grading it down.
Jess, questions?
No questions.
Ed?
Just a quick question here. So our ordinance doesn't allow you to, without a special exception, to impact existing steep slopes, but you can create them. Okay.
No, yeah, I guess that's it, yeah.
Because there are existing and more slopes being created for steep slope country.
And I would suggest that every slope in this township, steep or very steep, has been adjusted in some fashion by the hand of man in the history of this township. None of it's natural.
And I would just point out that what we're proposing to do, if we weren't putting a driveway there, the amount of grading we're doing to the steep slopes would be not restricted at all. We're not disturbing enough steep slope that we would require any, but it's because the driveway's there. I have nothing further to offer, but I have testimony. I would offer Exhibits A1, 2, and 3 into the record, and with great trepidation and mindful of the time, I'm going to ask this zoning hearing board to consider the application. And let me just explain to you that, as obviously is the case, we have a land development or subdivision plan, and the final design of that will be greatly impacted by what this zoning hearing board does. And we have time constraints based on our agreement of sale that if we don't get a decision and we can't move forward with our subdivision plan, it will have a significant impact on the situation. So I would ask, if it is all possible, for the zoning hearing board to consider making a decision on this application so we know how to proceed at this point.
First of all, your exhibits are admitted. Any other questions from the board? Ed, Jess, Bill? We're going to go through the litany even though there's no one here. With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, anyone that received regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township. With that, we close the record on this case. A decision will either be rendered this evening, or if we're not able to reach a decision this evening, at our next regularly scheduled meeting on September 5th. Having said that, Jess, are you prepared to vote on this evening?
Yes.
Ed, are you?
Yes.
Bill, are you? Yes. Okay, how about if I take a stab at it? I'm prepared to vote as well. I'll move that we approve the requested special exception with the following condition. Any ingress or egress or other access from Ellis Road, the state highway, be closed, discontinued, and just no longer used for the properties. And that's it.
I agree.
Jess?
I would just add that any variation in the final plan to the location of the driveway should be re-presented if it's going to move in its location to the steep slope. Right now, it's right at the edge, if you start shifting it more towards the center.
I should add, also approved in accordance with the notes of testimony and the exhibits. So if the exhibits change.
Can I ask that any such condition be that if because of a change we're going to disturb a more steep slope? Because there is at least a possibility, and there's at least a possibility that we may actually, because of some things that have come up, we may move the property line just a little bit, in which case we're going to be moving out of the steep slope. We may end up have a little less steep slope disturbance, but not more. I would hate to have to come back if we're simply.
So you're saying if you disturb less steep slope by a change?
We don't need to come back.
You okay with that?
Accept that, yeah.
Okay, so I'll add the condition that so long as moving the driveway disturbs less steep slope and in no way has access or ingress, egress, whatever, onto Ellis Road State Highway, that you don't have to come back, but if you disturb more steep slope, then you'll come back to the board.
Absolutely.
Ed?
I concur.
Okay. With that? Right, Bill?
Yeah.
All right, with that, the application is approved with those conditions, 4-0.
Thank you very much for taking that vote on that tonight.
It's the reward for going last and the pain of sitting here.
Thank you.
Good luck.
This is for Ashley.
You want these, right?
We are adjourned.